All right, everybody, we are
Hello, hello,
live.
hello.
So
And
the broadcast is
yes,
live.
welcome back to another weekly show of, well, the, the weekly show, I guess, the weekly reaction show. I
Yeah,
swear, I'll nail down a title one of these days. I think every week it comes out different, but we are here today with Dawn Gray Day. Sir, our special guest, thank you so much for joining us for Indigenous Peoples Month. And we are here with our regulars, Cody, Rachel, and Nick. And off to my
yes.
side, the floating voice who will be in a minute is Lindsay, my wife. And yeah, we are here talking Thunderheart tonight.
Yeah, this was my first time watching it, and um, um, I'm not exactly kicking myself, but kicking myself that I missed it when it first came out because it came out when I was 12. But I'm glad that I watched it. I mean, I felt it was a solid movie.
Yeah, same here. I wasn't 12, but first time watching, I'd heard of this movie and I vividly remember seeing the VHS like at the video store or at other stores. And I, like you, Nick, I thought it was just some kind of generic early 90s Val Kilmer movie. I'm kind
Yeah.
of shocked I didn't see it back in the day because my mom loves Val Kilmer.
Yeah, no,
Dawn, did you?
I think it's a good story, but like again, I said they portray the FBI as the good guys in this one.
And
When in reality, the FBI weren't the good guys towards
yeah,
Native Americans.
yeah,
Or the,
To me, that's what
or
makes
the
it.
government?
Yeah, to me, that's what makes it this kind of movie. I like to
I get
watch it
it.
every now and then
It,
because
it,
I love Graham
it,
Greene's
it
performance.
did kind of. We, we covered 1492 a couple of months ago, and it did. Now, this is speaking from Wonder Bread, okay? This is speaking from a white dude, but it did kind of feel like a white savior movie a little bit with Val Kilmer uh,
Oh, I,
coming in with his part instead of having a lead. Uh, well, I guess they did kind of have a Native American lead, but
well,
I
there
don't
is
know.
Graham Greene as like I guess the second co-lead, but yeah, I was thinking the whole time I was watching this, and no offense to Val Kilmer as an actor or the movie, because apparently Val Kilmer is part Cherokee, but I was thinking if they remade this movie today, surely they would cast a native or indigenous actor and go from the standpoint of maybe he was raised by his white side of his family, so he doesn't really know that side of his culture. And that makes more sense of the FBI bringing him in. Because no offense to Val Kilmer, but he looks like me, right? Going in
Well,
there, like
yeah,
he doesn't look like he's one of the Sioux, as they're saying when he gets hired for the job.
yeah. I think um, I think he was brought in mainly as part eye candy and part star power because Val. It's like, didn't Val Kilmer just do The Doors
Yeah, he
right
was just
before
hot
doing
off
this
his
movie?
acclaimed portrayal of Jim Morrison for The Doors.
Yeah, but
And if I'm
I
not
get a
mistaken,
lot of
Graham
the
Greene is
whole
fresh.
Dances with
Isn't he
Wolves,
fresh
yeah.
off of
yeah.
Dances with Wolves? Yeah. And I really
Yeah.
think he's an underrated actor. I really think he should have been in uh, a lot more than what he was in movie
Kind of the
wise.
roles that
I
he was
love,
given.
Yeah,
yeah, I love Graham Greene as an actor. I think he's wonderful.
yeah, yeah. A lot of the acting was pretty good, and especially the chemistry between Val Kilmer and Graham Greene. And
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
the go ahead.
No, yeah, no,
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
chemistry is fire.
Yeah. Also, there's that whole plot of the heritage denial. It reminds me of a really one of the cheesy parts of a Walker Texas Ranger episode. You probably know which one I'm talking about, where there's a flashback where like young Chuck Norris is brought in with a tribe, and the kid says, "White people are my people." It's like, oh my god, it's like this is that, but better acted.
Yes. And I do really like the actor who plays the elder that keeps having those routine conversations with Val Kilmer about, well, if you give me this, I'll give you this in return. Like, I thought he was really charming.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yes, it was. Um, Back around the time when Thunderheart was made in Canada, they passed a ordinance that if they're making a movie with that has a Native American role, a Native American has to play that part. And they had some really great movies that came out at that time.
oh,
Graham Greene was in a movie called Clear Cut, and there's an environmental movie. And you gotta get a chance, you should check it out because he does a very outstanding job in that movie as well.
Great, and that's called Clear Cut.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'll have to look that one up.
I know another favorite or one that I've seen and really enjoyed was Smoke Signals.
Hmm.
oh yeah, yeah. No, I, the guy that wrote Thunderheart name is John Fusco, Fusco.
Uh huh.
He has a habit of writing about different cultures, but having a white savior in it. For example, Forbidden Kingdom, Jet Jackie Chan,
Oh yeah.
and then you have the wrote Crossroads with
Hmm.
uh,
Ralph Macchio.
yeah,
Yeah,
Uh,
I've seen. Yeah, I've seen that. Well, I haven't seen that one beginning to end, but I have definitely seen scenes from that movie. It's like right off of his Karate Kid success,
yeah,
and
That's a Walter Hill movie with, I believe, Steve Vai playing guitar as, is he the
yeah,
devil or is
that
he
that
playing
Ralph
for the devil?
he well Steve Vai sold his soul to the devil,
Okay.
and so it's at the end it's Ralph Macchio and Steve Vai in this guitar battle at the end, and he beats him. That's I guess that's their way of him beating the devil.
oh, I gotta watch that movie all the way. But
Well,
um,
Don, I know you teach. You said you taught. It's Lakota, right?
yeah.
Lakota language. Okay. So when you watch these films, like how accurate is the language portion of it? Like,
Well, in Thunderheart, the grandpa is fluent because he can speak it like we do English, right? And when I listen to things like that, I don't need the subtitles. You know what I mean?
right?
I can understand what he's saying. And when Graham Greene's translating it, interpreting it, when he's talking about the vision he had, and the vision he had is Val Kilmer's dad, and I didn't need the subtitles to do that. Now, one of the worst movies for the language was Dancing with Wolves.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
So they
Okay.
committed some major
um,
sins there.
yeah, because the way they had fluent speakers helping the actors learn the language, but Graham Greene did an excellent job. He could still speak the language from what he learned. And what's her name? Mary Castle. She did a pretty decent job learning the language. And another thing too, nowadays we don't refer to ourselves as Sioux because Sioux is what our enemies call us.
Oh,
Yeah,
see, I
so
didn't know. I didn't even know that.
yeah, so when the United States government with the treaties and stuff, the Great Sioux Nation, they're talking about this big nation of natives that are the enemies. So we try to refrain from that.
So,
Back in the 60s and 70s, the the kids that went to boarding schools, that's what they learned. And so as they became older, they realized that that's not who we are. So just something to keep in mind when you guys watch movies.
so what is the proper name for it?
Lakota,
Lakota. Okay.
yeah,
So,
there's a Hana Lakota, but don't worry about
Well,
it.
I noticed that when I was watching the movie, because so many people have subtitles even when a movie's not in a different language. But when they were speaking, that's what it said, what language they were speaking in the movie. Like when the elder, I forget his name, but that's what it was saying, the language he was speaking in the film.
Yeah,
uh,
because
no.
mainstream education, that's what we're taught in public school as Sioux Indians. But we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. This is the '60s and '70s because I actually had to remind myself that this movie took place in the '70s. Like, there's really not, aside from the cars, there's really not all that much that says, period piece to me. But then again,
Because
this movie came out in 1992, and the '70s was like only 20 years ago.
yeah, I guess
No,
that makes sense. Go ahead, Don.
the movie takes place in the early '90s because they're retelling the plutonium that
Uranium, actually.
the FBI and the government wanted that plutonium, and they were doing illegal activities when they weren't supposed to.
Uh,
So yeah, so they're just retelling what happened in the '70s in a modern day setting.
okay. So, that makes a little bit more sense. Also, that reminds me of all the stories I've heard with not just reservation towns, but one particular town was in Oklahoma was doing a lot of strip mining. Well, I forget what they were mining, but they used the leftovers to pave their roads, and they used it as sand in playground sandboxes, and the kids eventually came down with like lead poisoning. Like, they was showing developmental problems in school, so they had them all tested, and like 80% of the kids at that school had lead poisoning.
Yeah,
And eventually, the town was declared what's called a Superfund site, which is their way of basically saying environmental disaster area. So
that's terrible.
there was a mass evacuation, and then a tornado hit, and that was pretty much the end of the town. It's pretty much a ghost town now. It's like it's Pitcher, Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of thing is, uh, I mean, this kind of
Yeah,
thing kind of happens everywhere. We don't, we don't even think all that much about it.
yeah, it's not reported necessarily, and they keep it hidden so people won't find out.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I'm kind of glad that you mentioned that in a lot of the real tribes that the FBI, yeah, they're portrayed as the good guys. Yeah, and it's a movie thing. I'm not sure it. There are some movies that actually do get funding from the federal government, and in order to get that funding, like you have to portray the government as being on the up and up. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
funny.
Apparently
Well,
the
they do
Avengers.
mostly portray them as the good guys because of.
Sorry, Cody, you faded out a little bit.
Oh, I was saying they mostly as the good guys because of Val Kilmer's character, but as we find out as the film goes on, Sam Shepard, who's supposed to be in charge of the investigation, is actually one of the bad guys. He's actually what perpetrated the murder once that uranium or whatever they're trying
Yeah, it was
to let
basically
there.
a silencing
Right.
operation. But you know, the FBI and a lot of minorities have had some really um, let's just say, unpleasant encounters with each other. I mean, for those of you who don't know, I would heavily suggest looking up COINTELPRO, or the Counterintelligence Program. Basically, it was a program done by the FBI to infiltrate certain groups to undermine them.
Ah, I think I've heard
Yeah,
of that, where they
this
did
is
that with the Hells Angels and lots of different
part
organizations and groups. And
Black Pan
Uh,
Health Angels, Black Panthers, a lot of the civil rights movement groups as
right.
well. So yeah, I'm with you, Don, on the FBI not being completely our friends.
During the No Doubtful movement, they tried to infiltrate the camps with the FBI.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we had a little cutout there.
Oh
Yeah, they
hey,
said FBI. They were just easy to spot because they were wearing like New York Yankee stuff, and
oh
the
yeah,
yeah they were doing that to try to undermine what
oh yeah.
It,
Sometimes this tends to happen when
you're
when you talk.
tripping.
There's
No, no, here we go. Okay.
yeah. Okay,
All right, we're good.
so so we've kind of come back to the come back to present time. We're at the we finished the time loop here. So um, but yeah, it's I've read some of it. I have to pace myself while I read it, because if I read too much too fast, I get really pissed off. Uh, but I'm also kind of thinking it's the whole yeah it's the whole thing is, yeah, it's a murder mystery on a reservation, um, but it's also about Val Kilmer's character, rediscovering his lost heritage. And I realized at the last second, well, not the last second, but there's another movie with him where he plays a character who
Batman.
realizes actually it's not Batman, Prince of Egypt.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Because
because
he voices Moses in that movie.
yeah,
Forgot about that.
but it's I guess I wouldn't say a kind of a common theme of his movies, but it does show up more than once.
Well, I'm glad that where the movie started, that it didn't end up that was who the bad guys were, because they're trying to set up this one. I believe the character's name is Jimmy, who's one of the resistance who wants the reservation and the people on the reservation to go back to the more traditional way before the government put them on the reservation.
Yeah,
And they and I'm glad he didn't end up being the murderer in the movie or
yeah,
the
he was
villain.
definitely the red herring in that movie.
Right.
The guy's name was John Trudell. That
The
played
actor's
Jimmy.
name or the
The guy
guy
that
who's
played Jimmy, yeah, John
okay.
Trudell.
Yeah,
Um, had a big role in American Indian movie in the 70s, and he was on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. And he
really.
didn't. All he did was speak, and the uh, the quote I remember seeing is that he speaks so he speaks so eloquently that um it can move people to do things, and that's the only reason why he was wanted, because he spoke the truth, I guess, and they didn't like that. But yeah, if you guys ever want to do, there's a documentary on him that you can watch on YouTube, Fidel,
That's
and
Yeah,
I suggest you guys check it out because he was one of my heroes. I got to meet him back in the '80s,
that's great. Yeah.
and
Oh
yeah,
wow.
and
yeah. I'm looking it up right now, and this. I mean, yeah, he's got a filmography, but he's really better known. He was really known um, as a author, author and activist. Of course, it looks like he's no longer with us.
he passed a few years ago.
Yeah.
I could tell you guys one thing about movies that are Native American based.
Yes,
The
please.
movies that are made, written by Native Americans, they talk about social issues that concern the reservation, whereas a non-native writer will romanticize um, what they learned as they were growing up about natives.
Well, yeah. Um, well, yeah. Um, that's really similar to a lot of what happens in black cinema. Like, yeah, it's like if it's written by a white person, and it it tends to I would say play into respectability politics, and movies that are more people of written and directed by people of color focus more on the issues that affect them affect them directly or indirectly. Of course, the biggest case in point right now is the newest Black Panther movie. Yeah, it's a um, yeah, yeah, it's a sci-fi fantasy about a made up country, but also it's about dealing with colonists wanting to use your land and wanting to use your resources without regard to of the people that actually live in it.
Yeah, who's the guy that wrote Do the Right Thing?
Spike Lee.
Spike Lee.
Yeah, Spike Lee. You can tell Spike Lee movies because he writes about the social stuff that's going on in neighborhoods day to day, and
Yeah,
it shows, that the writing that he does really brings into pers- perspective for those that aren't African American,
yeah,
and even the white people that love Spike Lee because of that. He, the social is like the movie Smoke Signals. It was written by Sherman Alexie, and it was the first movie that had an all Native American cast, and uh, the behind the scenes, all the production people were Native Americans. And the first of its kind. That's what makes it a Hallmark movie.
uh, nice.
Yeah, I
Uh,
didn't realize that, but that's amazing. I want to get your opinion on something off of Thunderheart because, yeah, anytime white people try to make a movie about somebody's culture that's not theirs, they do try to romanticize or try to be as safe as possible, I guess, for that four quadrant audience. But I was wondering what you thought about the movie Songs My Brother Taught Me, if you've seen it. It is directed by
Oh
Chloe
yeah, yeah.
Zhao.
That was an awesome movie.
Okay,
I really enjoyed that movie a lot. I
yeah,
liked it enough to buy it on digital.
she's not an indigenous person, but she's not a Caucasian either telling this story.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed that movie. The girl did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Yeah, good movie.
and what's the name of the movie again, Cody?
Songs My Brother Taught Me. It's her directorial debut. Most people would know her from Nomadland, which won Best Picture, and she directed what I guess most people say is the worst Marvel movie, which I disagree, is The Eternals.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's see, songs.
Nomadland was good. Man, yeah, I'll definitely check out this other film.
Okay, songs my brothers taught me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yeah,
that one,
that's a good one.
yeah.
I really enjoyed that movie because it shows a lot of the struggles of living in a place where there's no place to get a job. There aren't any. So these guys hustle and make their own things and try to make a living somehow. And the guy that sells the T-shirts and everything, I really like his character.
That's
She's
great.
Okay.
yeah, the director's not native, but you can tell that she went through some struggles on her own growing up to be able to tell a story of from an indigenous standpoint.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot
What?
of I would say a lot of struggles um, can be put to used as uh, I don't want to say as a way of bonding, but I guess more of a way of understanding one another. One of those. I don't want to say like we're not so different, you and I, but it's uh, it could.
Actually, um, there's an interesting correlation between the Black and Indigenous population, and it is a present day controversy. Um, Once upon a time, when Black people were newly liberated, they were treated as outsiders, and the indigenous of that area, the Creek, Indians primarily, were like, hey, we're kind of outsiders too to these people who just kind of moved in onto our land. You want to co-survive together and team up because safety in numbers. And so what happened is a lot of the black population of that time moved in with and joined a lot of indigenous tribes of whatever area they were liberated in.
I'm glad you
So,
brought that up, Rachel, because that's actually one of my favorite bits of American history. I've also heard stories of how some runaway slaves would be adopted by
mhm,
indigenous tribes, and some would
more
e-
often than not,
even
they,
intermarry
yeah,
because the enemy of my enemy is my lover.
yeah. And
I
so most of my indigenous friends are also people of color um, in this situation. One of the biggest things is they can't get the same benefits as indigenous people if they even have so much as 10% black uh, heritage. Uh,
That's a thing.
that is a thing, and it's that's what I mentioned a minute ago before we went live, that indigenous people aren't allowed to be mixed race. They have to be completely indigenous to be registered.
Uh, well,
There's a blues musician, Charlie Patton. Um, he was mixed native, and there's a movie called, a documentary called, where is it? Indians that rock the world.
hmm
You can watch it on Amazon Prime, where they talk about it, and they have these Native women listening to his music, and they're like, "That's Native American. That's a Native American beat that," and she's really excited about that.
what's it called?
Let me look it up real quick.
Okay.
Oh, that's really interesting what Rachel brought up, and I had no idea that was going on. It just shows you how wonderful the education system is in our country with history.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it's
the
okay.
victors
Not
the
only Native
victors very much.
Americans, but Hispanic people as well. There's a lot
Mm,
of mix between Hispanic and
Well,
indigenous
well,
peoples
I
that
mean,
and
their cultures are almost of the same because I was mentioning off camera that like my mother-in-law, she's mostly considered Hispanic, but like there is indigenous ancestry in their family because most of their family is from this southwest part of the country, Texas, California, Mexico, which was indigenous land till Europeans
mm,
decided to come over here.
right. Well, and we were talking about tribes uh, integrating and adopting um, African Americans. The Hispanic people also did that with runaway slaves. They would run
mm.
to Mexico, and over there they were considered equal. And
Yes.
uh,
Yes, they did.
they again, a lot of people don't like to hear this, but a lot of early cowboys were not only Hispanic but African Americans.
Yes, they
Yes.
were,
Yeah,
Runaway
and they
slaves,
still are.
still
Yes.
yes,
are.
Juneteenth
still are.
rodeo. One of the favorite things to my family. One of my favorite things my family used to do.
Right.
And
Every
not to get back on Black Panther too, but another thing that film does that I think is interesting, besides dealing with grief and how to move on from it, is the government and mostly colonist white America pitting two cultures of color against each other instead of having them be allies when the real enemy is the system.
And let's
Pretty
be
right,
much.
honest, that's not so untrue, is it? You know, they
No.
still work on keeping each minority, well, not even a minority at this point, but each group so at odds with each other that it's hard to even come together on a mutual goal on election day to vote for their own interests. Nick, you're muted.
I do that sometimes.
Sorry. Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, but also same could be said for a lot of definitely a lot of the poor white people in the
Yeah.
country.
Oh, I mean, the poor white people are manipulated by so much bull crap
Yeah.
from things that are against their own interests because of whatever they think their religion or whatever things the right wing media manipulates them into voting that way.
Yeah. Um,
But
oh, dang it! I wanted to make a point, but then I lost it.
Ugh.
but we were
Yeah.
talking about how there is definitely to this day a PR blitz against each group coming together
Yeah.
and voting for their interests. And then you started talking on me.
Yeah. I mean, it's there. There's just a lot of crappy things that our government is into that honestly we would be here all day talking about them.
Yeah.
Yep, our government stinks. The FBI, they are hardly ever the good guys. And I think that's another thing that's interesting about this movie is it does deal with the after effects of Wounded Knee and why these indigenous people feel the way they do, why they don't want the government coming into their land or their property. Like Graham Greene is like, this is our law. I'm the police here. You know, he doesn't want the FBI dealing with the murder investigation.
Right.
Because he knows that it's going to get taken, that any evidence gets swooped up and swept under the rug. Because that's
Which
what
it
happens in a jurisdictional situation like that.
well after the at the end of the movie, that's pretty much what happened. It's like, oh, there's going to be
Yep.
an internal investigation, which basically means we're sweeping all of this under the rug and
They'll force Sam Shepard to retire.
There. Yeah, so naturally wanting to keep it in his own hands. I didn't get to watch it this time. I only get to hear about it from you guys. It sounds like a beautiful movie.
it is. Also, I kind of want to. I wanted to. After this, I kind of want to talk about Val Kilmer's character evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, even though this is basically a white savior movie, it is a very interesting evolution of where he comes to terms with that side of his heritage and his bloodline and realizing like he remembers more about his dad and that than he thought he did because he suppressed those memories, I guess, as a kid when he has his vision or his dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like first like he's all stuffy FBI agent, you know, suit and tie and glasses, and then he first loses the glasses, and then then that one kid, you know, gets shot in the drive-by, and he
Mm-hmm.
uses his tie as a tourniquet. Like his clothing gets more and more casual as the movie goes on.
And then he loses it on those guys when they pull up in that clinic. Which I did laugh in that scene when they bring the kid in, and the doctor's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "You're a doctor. Can't you tell he's been shot?"
Yeah.
Which again, that's kind of a thing for some people going into the doctor's office. It's such a roundabout thing.
Well, probably also because, you know, also Don, stop me if I'm inaccurate with this, but I'm pretty sure a lot of the medical clinics on reservations are woefully understaffed and underfunded and under resourced.
Yeah, we go by the Indian Health Service, and in our trees we get free health care, and you do the walk-in clinic, sign up at 12:30, and then it won't call you in until about 3 o'clock. So I mean, it's terrible. It's better to go to the emergency room, and then if they need to, they can transfer you over to the it's not really a hospital, but it's a clinic, and
Yeah,
they can transfer you over there so a doctor can see you. But it's something we just deal with. At least I'm like, at least we have that, you know.
I get it. I mean, of course, we have our own issues with health. One of the many problems in wrong in our country is a lot of the for-profit healthcare system. I
Yep.
live a block away from one of those emergency clinics. It's like right next door to a Lowe's and a Walmart.
Hmm. Yeah, there's one right around the corner here by me in the same parking lot as a CVS, and then one across the street as
So
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
here's the crazy thing about those pop-up emergency rooms. The reason why they don't accept TRICARE, Medicare, and indigenous health insurance isn't because they're snobby. It's because they aren't good enough. They don't they don't meet the correct requirements to be funded by those programs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
I get a
So it
feeling
really
I'm
is
gonna
the
be
fast food of medical care.
yeah, I'm gonna be. I get a feeling I'm probably gonna be sighing a lot like this, like.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Don, besides you pointed out that the language they speak in here is fairly accurate, what other things do you like about this movie, Thunderheart, that made you want to talk about it with us?
Um, the character of Maggie,
Oh
Yes,
yeah, she was
yes,
wonderful. I really
she
liked her.
she was Tausi. She's a great actress, and I
yeah.
just really liked her character with her and her grandma.
Oh yeah, it's like one of those, definitely one of those people they've seen some shit.
Yep,
Yeah, but I love how she puts Val Kilmer in his place when he's still being, stuffy FBI agent making assumptions, and she's like, "I graduated from Dartmouth. Like, I don't come in here with your Ivy League
Colonizer.
attitude."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I love she would not take his shit.
Beautiful.
And
I
she
love it
actually
when a woman won't take a man's shit.
Yeah,
she actually helped Val Kilmer's character, like when he came to visit that one time. He brought cigarettes and groceries.
yeah.
And
yeah,
that's what I mean. That's what that's what I do when I go visit an elderly on the reservation. I'll bring tobacco and eggs and bacon, bread,
Oh yeah, oh
just
yeah.
and coffee because coffee's a big thing around here.
Coffee's a good thing anywhere.
Yeah,
yep. That's what keeps me from not going crazy on people is coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been watching my freshly brewed coffee from across the room for a minute now.
Uh,
I
I
did.
yes, that's basically one of the things that helps me get through the day at school.
Coffee is one of the best addictions you could ever have.
One of the best addictions, But let's that's a rant for another time. Um,
I didn't realize David Crosby was in this movie.
yeah, he was
Oh
one of
yeah, yeah.
the.
I was
Yeah, he
gonna
was.
bring that up too because what he says is what people like in Bismarck, North Dakota moving, they still call us that.
Oh my
That
god, I'd
slur.
never heard
Yeah.
that. I'd never heard that slur before, but I was gonna say, is he the racist bartender?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I. It does not surprise me that they use it, but it's surprising, but it's not that surprising. If that makes sense.
yes, sadly.
Yeah. Uh, but there also talk about actors you didn't think of. I couldn't help but notice Law and Order alum and former presidential candidate Fred Dalton Thompson.
Yeah, he's, I guess, Val Kilmer's boss, and wasn't he a governor or a senator?
Oh yeah, trying to.
Senator, maybe?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
And a failed
He has.
presidential candidate.
Yeah, he was a presidential candidate, but I. But yeah, you're right. I think he did hold some kind of office.
Hmm.
Yes, he was. He served as a United States Senator from Tennessee from 1994 to 2003.
Yeah, I thought so. Besides his various acting credits of playing mostly cops, or I guess in Law and Order, he was the lawyer boss, right?
Yeah, he was the DA. But yeah, he was also chair of the Senate Governmental Affairs Committee from January to June
That
of
was
2001.
okay then.
Yeah,
Wow. That's got to be some kind of a short record.
but he was a I knew he was a politician, but I forgot that he actually did hold office. I'm honestly glad he didn't win. He didn't win any kind of presidential primaries because honestly, yeah, we don't need another Reagan.
Nope, one was bad enough. We're still feeling the effects of his administration 40 years later.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh, see
Jesus.
another thing to. Yeah, actually, one of the things that kind of caught me, excuse me, was a lot of the portrayal of poverty. Now, of course, I have not lived on a reservations, but I have definitely, been around the poorer parts of East Texas, and a lot of that poverty kind of hits close to home.
And just seeing the state of people's yards and the houses they have to live in, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
See, like my perspective living on reservation is people look at how run down the houses are, the yards aren't kept, um, there's cars parked all over the place, broken down. But people drive, especially during No Dabble, people drove to one of our towns and they noticed that. And what you do is you don't judge the house by the way it looks, because you can go into a house like that and we'll feed you, we'll make you laugh, because that's how we show our respect for people is um we treat you like you're part of the family. And that's one thing when you watch a movie like Thunderheart and the driving through and Volcano says they're not my people. And they don't realize that when you go into a house that there's a lot of love, a lot of caring, and the um the respect of having a guest. When I have guests, we make sure that they have something to eat. And, if they want coffee, of course we always have coffee made, so that's not
Yeah.
a problem. But
Yeah.
we never judge. Again, for us, we don't we don't
So
Yeah, I get what you're saying because
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of that in um uh, growing up in Marshall. Uh, I mean, I didn't think
Never
about
judge a book by its cover. You know,
yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
exactly. It's like
what
anything else.
yeah
You never know.
what I heard was that the that on the res the emphasis isn't so much placed on appearances and shallow things like the facade of your house and your state of your yard and your car, like in white and developed, not developed, help,
suburbs.
suburban culture. Thank you. Where
Yeah.
the emphasis is on the appearances, and on the res with indigenous families, it's about the relationship. It's about the
Yeah,
relationship with each other.
yeah.
That's
I
what
exactly.
I heard.
See, like
uh,
if any of you guys ever show up at my house and you'd be like, "Wow, I'm really glad I went to go see Don Gator because he treated
yeah,
us well and they cooked and they made a meal and we had a good time."
yeah. I'll believe it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't when we talk about riches, we don't judge. We don't consider ourselves rich by how much stuff we can gather and keep, how much money we make, and how much we save. We how much we give away. That's the thing that we can't do.
Your sound went out. Your sound went out, Don.
sorry. It's about this. It's about the same.
Yeah, it sounds like something happened to your microphone. Is something covering up your microphone? Sounds like it's either covered up or in a tube.
That's annoying. Of course, I'm on the Wi-Fi, so I'm coming in now.
yeah, it's still low.
Yeah, it's still very low and
Hmm.
oh, maybe he'll get him to come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, hold
but
on.
in the meantime, maybe y'all can tell me about the film since I didn't get to see it. You can tell me kind of what goes on.
Oh, hey, Don. Welcome back.
Welcome
Yeah,
back.
I just refreshed it. Is my mic working better?
Oh yeah. Now
You
it's working
sound
better.
much better.
I just refreshed it, so.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Uh,
tell about Thunderheart. I want to hear what you guys is telling the movie I suggested to somebody. I want to hear that.
what, are you talking about songs my brothers taught me, or
she was talking about you guys tell her about the movie since she didn't get to watch it.
Oh, well, okay. On one level, it is very much a murder mystery. Val Kilmer is brought in uh, as to solve this one native person's murder, and of course he clashes with the locals and clashes with the local cop that he's working with. It's very much a um, big city big city mouse in a country town kind of story. But on another level, it is about Val Kilmer's character who is rediscovering his lost heritage. Like he's denied his heritage for so long because he was embarrassed about the fact that his father was an alcoholic and um, basically wasted a lot of his potential. Um, so he kind of denied that part of himself for so long, and working this case pretty much brought that part of his heritage back to him.
That was good. I like that.
So he is not just lawful good, just on the side of law and order. He's now on the side of justice, because those two things are not the same.
Yeah, they hardly ever go hand in hand because laws are written by men.
There is what should be and what actually is, and they both live in separate towns, and never the twixt shall meet.
Yeah. But yeah, that's basically the gist of Thunderheart. Also, some of the local enforcers in that, those are the obvious bad guys. It didn't take me very long to understand why they were called goons.
Yeah. That was a real thing in Pine Ridge. The goons, that was a real thing.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
So, how do you feel about the late Fred Ward playing supposedly the head of this enforcer group that's supposed to be
I didn't mind. I didn't mind Fred Ward being the tribal chairman.
Okay.
Because he got the nose for it,
Okay.
and you guys know what I mean. And I really like his portrayal because we had a tribal chairman that didn't know the language but try to say things in the language that kind of like, oh man, don't be saying that. But
Uh,
I really enjoyed Fred Ward's character.
I mean, I
yeah.
looked it up. Apparently, he was part Cherokee. I don't know how much part, because I don't know how white people in North Dakota are, but every white person in East Texas tries to say, "Oh, I'm a 16th Cherokee,"
Oh yeah,
No.
yeah.
And it's always Cherokee, and that's the one they go to all the time.
Well, their grandmother,
What's funny?
their great grandmother was Native
If
American princess or something. Another
if
one that's
Oh my
if
God!
I had a nickel for every white person in East Texas that say I'm such and such Cherokee, I would have enough for a down payment on a house.
What's
It's
funny
so
about
true,
that?
though.
What's funny about
yeah.
that is on my father's side, we have North Dakota Blackfoot, and my grandmother has pictures from that day and age. They were forest people. They lived in the woods, and what brought my family into the city was marrying one of their daughters to the wealthy family on the hill. And then on my mom's side, we're Cherokee.
Mm.
That's why if somebody asks me, I I don't claim I know. I say this is what I've been told. I don't know if it's true because I've never done ancestry. I'm like, this is what my grandparents said. I don't know if that's the truth or not.
Actually, my mother-in-law is been doing a lot of family trees, and I've actually found out a lot about my own family so far. It's,
Yeah.
I mean,
My
there's no.
my grandmother did that. My dad's mom did that the last probably, man, probably 8 years of her life, and this was like early internet, handwriting letters, going to the library, and doing all of this genealogy back like from the Mayflower into England before she passed away. But it was really in depth and it was so cool. I'm glad that she did it. And I've thought about over the years picking it back up and where she left off and seeing how far back I could go. I think that would be really cool. But she really just went in depth with it, and it was really cool. I really need to get into it and take it back up. But
my mom did something.
Point being, we have a past.
Go ahead, Chris.
I don't go around myself or Lord, so and so, because there's, way on down the line, there's a castle floating around somewhere with our family name attached to it. It's kind of the same. I don't know. I'm just saying that. No, I'm not. I'm not saying that it's like heritage if it's proven. That I'm saying that again in line with the people that are just like, oh yeah, I'm a sixth, Cherokee, without even doing research. Like they just heard it from a brother one day, or some family member, without even doing the research. That's like half the people in East Texas. Like, oh yeah, my
no.
But it is very rampant in East Texas.
It is.
No,
it is.
But you said your grandmother has pictures. I'm saying people who don't prove it.
Yeah, they're just saying it because they heard their uncle say it once. But
yeah,
Chris,
no.
More often than not, to justify the racist shit they say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, God.
If you're using your heritage to silence the voice of somebody, you might be a racist.
Well, if you ever say that something is too woke, you might be a racist.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But Chris,
I have a family member who believes that she is somehow connected to Native Americans, but she's not, because again we've done the research and we keep telling her, but nope, she swears up and down that there's some link or heritage there, and we're like, no ma'am, we have the paperwork to prove it.
So
and she just won't. She won't accept it. I just think
the tragedy. The tragedy is that there's nothing really stopping her from reaching out to her local reservation and getting involved. There's nothing stopping her from doing that. She doesn't have to claim a heritage. She can just be involved.
She can be an ally.
And she wants so bad that she just believes it. And there's no talking sense in her. No, ma'am, we're white, straight up lady.
But I mean, some people just wanna. They wanna feel special in some way.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of Rachel Dolezal, I think is her name.
Oh God! Do not mention that name to me. Do not mention that name. She is Voldemort in the black community.
Her parents are straight up white. She was just going to the tanning beds.
Oh yeah.
Oh Lord! But changing the subject a bit, Chris. Back to you talking about your grandma doing that. My mom did something similar, not as detailed, but she discovered that people on her side of the family, either I think it's her grandmother's side, actually came from the area they live in Kentucky that we lived in for so long that my parents have a house in. Like, so like, actually, she's not crazy when she says she feels at home up there because she actually has ancestors that were from that area that
Yeah.
moved to Texas. So it's kind of wild. I always thought all of our ancestors migrated to Texas for so long, but I guess, they had to get somewhere before they got to Texas.
Yeah.
Everybody comes from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of why genealogy is such an interesting thing, because you can dig up stories like the way my family came to America is on my dad's side. My great grandfather was German, and at the end of the French and German War, the boundary for Germany landed just on the other side of his property, and he was so mad about it that he moved to America rather than be a Frenchman.
Oh, dang.
Word.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why genealogy is so beautiful.
It can be, but a lot of
so
people
much
tend
tea.
to use it as. I've seen a lot of people use it as a weapon, like
Uh-huh.
You've probably heard the common phrase, "Oh, I made this new friend," and your parents ask, "Who's their parent?" It's like who are their mother and who's their mother and father,
Uh-huh.
and they look at the attitudes of people of the past and assume that it's transferred over to the present, which 8 times out of 10 does happen, but they don't really count
Well,
for
you don't
that.
know till you meet the person. You can't judge them on who their family members are.
Exactly.
And
In older social structures, especially small towns, families very much had a very particular way of doing things because they were migrating in from other areas. And so the xenophobia was real back then, and then it just got transferred down from great grandfather to grandfather to father to son, rather than in today's age everybody's from everywhere and it's not really an issue. But back then it was a real who's your family. It was about keeping it all in the family. I hate for the way that sounds, but
Yeah.
another thing that's guilty of white Southern culture is that so many people don't know nor care where their ancestry came from before. Well, I'm from this place, and that's where I am. I'm a Southerner. Like, well, yeah, you're a Southerner, but your great great granddaddy came to the South from somewhere else, and it was probably Europe.
Yeah. Both sides of my family come from up north, but my grandmother's side of the family on my mom's side identified as debutantes and daughters of the revolution.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always kind of been wary about the whole debutante culture anyway, because a lot of the ones that I have encountered have been, let's just say, snobbish.
It's the old thinking, and I can tell you from personal experience, you can educate yourself out of ignorance.
Well, yeah, that's. I mean, also speaking as an educator, the thing with educating yourself out of ignorance is you have to want to learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
But the benefit outweighs the work every time. hands down, the people that you meet, the friends that you make are everything. It was worth everything I had to do to learn.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
and
this reminds me of Senator Elizabeth Warren. She always claims she was Cherokee, but
yeah.
they did a DNA test and there's no Native American DNA in her, and she's still claiming that she's Cherokee, even though there's no evidence in her DNA saying so. So that's stuff we have to deal with all the time.
Ugh.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, you know, on a lot of things, I can't say is I blame you.
Yeah. Well, one other thought I wanted to talk about. You mentioned how there's a Canadian law that if you have a character who is Native American, they need to be played by a Native American, and fortunately, um, there has been an outflux of um, other characters of color uh, in a lot of media in recent years. Like when they remade Aladdin, it's like Disney. It's obvious that Disney didn't want to do it, but it was a good call anyway. They casted unknowns as the lead role, whereas 20 years ago they would have told Zac Efron to go get a tan.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, they had the boyfriend from Full House voice Aladdin in the animated series.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
and
mean, or the movie, not the series, the movie. Yeah.
actually no, they did. They did
Gumball
keep
was
a
the
lot
Prince
of the
of Persia.
voice
But that's
actors.
the
They did keep a lot of the
there,
voice actors from the movie over into the series. Only one who didn't stay was Robin Williams because
mm-mm.
they said no, don't use me as a draw. Don't use me as a draw, and Disney used him as a draw.
You
Yeah.
know,
So
Tom Cruise played the last samurai.
yeah,
Uh, I like that movie, but yeah, come on, Tom Cruise. But
Oh, speaking of white savior,
but I mean, he's not technically the last samurai in that movie, even though he's the lead character and he's
oh,
the white savior. It's
yeah,
Ken Watanabe who's actually the
yeah.
last samurai.
But
yeah,
there's other examples in even recent cinema where it's a white person standing in for another race, and
yeah. It's not. Yeah. Live action Ghost in the Shell. It is not
Yep.
perfect, but it is
mm,
definitely better than it was.
I did like Scarlett Johansson as the main character, even though
I
we could
don't.
have.
Mm,
I have. I did not watch it, but that's because I personally have a thing against live action adaptations of anything animated.
Well,
Like there are
it
very few
actually
exceptions.
it got my attention because it's a favorite anime of mine. So I watched it a while ago. Don't ask me to tell you anything about it because I don't recall it. But
Well, if that's that says more than I need to know about that
oh.
movie.
I think
yeah,
Speed Racer rules, and I thought Alita was a pretty good movie.
Speed Racer was one of my few
yeah,
exceptions.
definitely. And let's talk about Eon Flux and Charlize Theron, my
Oh
girl
my God.
crush.
I will let's not talk about that. But going back to my point, there is a stronger influx of seeing characters of color, um, more diversity in media,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and um, that's definitely never a bad thing. More diversity is never a bad thing, um,
Yes.
but
You know,
especially
more.
with like children's media. Like it's like
Mhm.
one
Hmm.
thing I think of is the She-Ra reboot. Like I mean, the original, all the characters suffered from same face, but now you have different
Mhm.
ethnicities and different body types, and of course different sexualities. Because
Mhm.
yes, gay people do exist, but um, I but I with this, I kind of would like to see a few more Native American stories added to this mix. Does anybody
Yes.
have any thoughts on this?
Native
Well, we
American
are.
culture is so rich with stories. Like Don Gray was saying a minute ago, how most of his culture is handed down in story form. There's so many wonderful uh, th- things that you could turn into real cinema Netflix series easy.
Yeah,
Yeah. We have two great TV shows out. Sadly, one of them got canceled that does deal with indigenous societies, and that's Reservation Dogs and Rutherford Falls.
I've been
Oh
meaning to
man,
catch
Rutherford Falls
that.
is awesome.
Yeah, and I believe the whole entire cast and crew of Reservation Dogs is indigenous.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we are getting an indigenous Marvel superhero or Marvel character with Echo, which was on the Hawkeye series. She was a
Yeah,
character in.
good, good. Because actually,
Yeah.
last I was trying to remember. A lot of people who are familiar with Marvel Comics, um, the one Native American character I could think of was the X-Man Thunderbird, or as I
Yeah,
like to call it, the only X-Man to die and actually stay dead.
that's true. They've never brought him back, but
Oh,
isn't Forge indigenous?
Yes, yes, he is indigenous.
so is Storm. She's
Storm,
African.
yeah, Storm is African, but also they brought the Thunderbird's brother into it. Warpath.
Oh yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
yeah.
But
Um, don't forget about Namor and Black Panther 2.
Oh yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man, God, it's so good, and it's such a beautiful movie too. Just the cinematography and the underwater sequences. They did a really great job. Ryan Coogler, he did the impossible, and I think Angela Bassett should get a Oscar nomination personally.
She's needed an Oscar nomination for like
oh
decades.
Well, she's only
yes.
ever gotten one in her whole career.
Yeah.
Angela Bassett's one of the people I look up to the most. I love her music. I love her acting. She is everything. She's so beautiful.
Honestly, I wish she played Storm.
Yes,
oh man, that would
yes.
have been great. That would
Yes.
have been great.
She was supposed to play her back when Catherine Bigelow was going to make it in the late 80s or early 90s.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome, but I mean, no offense to Halle Berry.
Yeah.
Well, Don,
But
what I don't want to be implied or anything, and it would actually be really amazing. Could you um, language? Could you demonstrate for us? Could you give us a phrase in what you teach?
Yeah, like when we greet people, and we're standing in front of a bunch of people, um, we say this phrase. It means, Father said, Santé na Pilipinas. That means I greet you all with a warm handshake.
That's a good phrase. I
Yeah,
mean,
Yeah.
it's
and,
Yeah.
definitely a mouthful. I mean, I need to practice to get that right, but yeah, that's definitely an awesome phrase.
Mm.
and then like the next part would be like Don Grade Machiapi. My name is Don Grade. So that's not too bad.
Yeah.
And stuff I teach my students just so that they could tell when they can talk to a grandma or grandpa and the grandma or grandpa may have lost the language to going through, but they know what it means and it makes them feel glad that they're learning that. And that's one thing I try to do is connect who we are now to the past, and that's language. And we have we lost a lot of elderly fluent speakers through COVID, and
Mm.
so when I first started teaching, we had about on standing off, we had about 60, close to 70 fluent speakers, and we lost some through COVID, and we're a number of down in place. And we have a friend whose son graduated a few years ago, and when he gave his graduation speech, he spoke it all in a pulpit, and it just shook everybody up because they didn't know he was that fluent. And his mom and dad are fluent, so they speak him all the time at home, which is the best place to learn. And it's just amazing that some of these kids are becoming fluent because we're losing them.
Yeah, I can get that.
And
Man,
then um, basic things like during Halloween, some of my students in town came by, and one of the boys said, "Mr. Grady, Chamhanska ito Rocky Buhahe." He asked, "Can I have some candy?" And it was just
Nice.
amazing. It just made me feel really good that he said that. And I brought it up in school the next day that he said that. And when I saw his grandma, I mentioned that, and she goes, "Oh, he just loves us. He just loves you in your class." And it
Oh.
shows because they try their best to learn, and that makes me feel good because as language teachers, we get our um we get knocked down a lot because they say, "Oh, you're not producing language speakers," and I'm like, "Well, I can only present, and it's up to them to take it home and to learn it." And some have done it, and it makes you feel good that they can do things like that. If you guys look up YouTube, look up "Stand by Me" in Okota,
Ooh.
Mm.
and one of my students last year, we it was just her and I in class. So I asked the principal that can we translate songs, and something her and I had talked about before. So we did. She allowed us to do that, and we did a presentation. It was filmed, and it's on YouTube, and it went all over Standing Rock. People were just impressed that wow, and um, it's a way that we can use our language now. and songs. We try to translate country roads, and there's a part in there we're talking about driving, and there's no breaks in the song, and we just know there's no way we can get the words into the melody, and we gave up, but we did Stand By Me, and she did a really good job.
Well,
So
that sounds
hopefully you guys
awesome. I'm
check
a,
it out and leave comments or something in your group, in your video store rejects. Another thing I want to talk about is the guy that wrote Thunderheart, John Fusco.
uh-huh.
Um, he's written some other movies and where he didn't need a white savior, and one was called Dreamkeeper, and it's a storytelling where he takes his grandson on a journey, and it's a great movie. He also did a movie with Viggo Mortensen called his doggo.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I was working at the theater when it came out.
It's a Joe Johnston movie.
I
yeah,
have to,
Right.
yeah,
and,
I'll have to take a look at. I always like looking at screenwriters' filmographies because, I mean, yeah, the director and the actors are the ones who bring the stories to life, but the screenwriters are the ones who actually come up with the idea. So,
This was a interesting director though. He's a British director, mostly known for his documentary series he did about a group of people. It started when they were 7, and I think it goes all the way up to their 60s before he passed. So
yeah,
this is a interesting director for to bring in for this movie.
yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah,
Also, I have to keep reminding myself that this was James Horner doing the music.
Oh, this movie was shot by Roger Deakins too. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, do we have any further thoughts on this movie?
Don, do you have any further thoughts?
I like to suggest this movie to my friends who want to learn about Native Americans, especially because it takes place in Pine Ridge, which is a Lakota reservation. And I asked them when they're done watching it and we're talking about it. I asked them, "So, what's your initial thoughts on the movie?" They talk about really liking it and everything, and then I start pointing out some of the bad things where the FBI are are portrayed as the good guys, and as you said that when Val Kilmer's character is becoming more in touch with his heritage, it gets to the point where he has the vision where he's running with the old ones that wounded me,
Yeah.
and it's like Graham Greene's reaction is classic because he's like, I lived here all my life. I've never had a vision like that before. That's the thing I get from his reaction is like, you you had a vision, and it's like, is it because Val Kilmer is um one of the guys that was killed on the monument stacks where they list Thunderheart, and is it because that he comes from that bloodline that he has the vision? They don't really talk about that too much. And then I talk about the Maggie, the school teacher. and John Seagal is Jimmy the shapeshifter, and I'm like, the Jimmy's character is more romanticized as the shapeshifter, and that's a real thing actually in our culture still nowadays. And I'm like, well, tell me what you think about Maggie, and they start talking about that strong, independent Lakota woman that we all have aunties like that nowadays, and that they're really vocal about the government and how they treat us, have treated us in the past. And we talk about politics and presidents. It's like, you know what, we've had to deal with 45 different presidents and their policies towards Native Americans, and how we just deal with it and adapt to it. And it shows in period whatever movies made at a certain time, like when you have when Ted Turner did his we didn't want to change the Atlanta parade name. He started making movies about um Native Americans, and one of them was Geronimo. That was a really good movie. Wes Studi played Geronimo, and
Yeah.
that's another actor that if you need to get a chance to watch, um, a great actor that more people just need to know more about, and his character in Last of the Mohicans is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I always like suggesting Thunderheart because it's a good movie. I really enjoy it, but sometimes it's hard to watch because Sam Shepard's character is the kind of FBI people that we had to deal with, you know, all the time.
Mm.
Sneaky and manipulative and trying to build cases against whatever's going on in whichever reservation that they're trying to manipulate. And that's going on in one of our reservation in North Dakota that three affiliated tribes when the back in the oil field, and how the FBI is trying to manipulate the oil production and who gets what money and whatnot. And it's just it tore the reservation apart, and there's still families up there that don't talk to each other because of what happened. And there's stuff we deal with on a day to day, and whatever like the murder mystery. The reason why the FBI takes over jurisdiction on in the movies because the Seven Major Crimes Act passed a long time ago because Rosebud, a man killed another man, and his punishment was to take care of the man's family that he killed and the people that live around there. The white people live around there. So that's not right. So they took over jurisdiction because of that. And
Mm.
the stuff we have to deal with all the time. So when we have um, a crime like that one of the major crimes that we can't do anything about it. Our tribal police can't really investigate without them be like how they treat Graham Greene's character. This isn't this isn't your case; it's our case, and so we've had things in the past where there was a murder or somebody got shot, and um, that the tribal police could not um, do anything about it because the FBI would come in and start collecting the evidence and taking over everything, and um, it takes forever to find out the truth. It does come out, but it takes a long time because they're playing catch up. Uh, what happened? Whereas when the tribal police will arrive on the scene, they know right away that initial investigation that they did um, has to be turned over to the FBI, and they're trying to figure out how to do things to make it fit into the crime itself, and it bogs down a lot of things. But yeah, so Thunderhearts is a decent movie, but the whole having the vision and he sees the dancers across the river from grandma's place and things like that is like romanticized a lot. So when you watch a movie like Smoke Signals, which is really down to earth and just it's a Hallmark movie, and but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I will just say this. I am glad that I checked this movie out. Um, Also, you're kind of right. My spouse only saw a few scenes of the movie, and the only thing they said the only thing inaccurate about this movie is the fact that they're investigating it in the first place.
Yeah,
Right. But
Yeah.
thank you, Don, for suggesting this movie. Thank you for agreeing to come on and talk with us. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was pretty well done. Ill considering that the FBI is still kind of portrayed as a good person and it's a bit of a white savior movie, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be from something that was made 30 years ago. Like, it was a pretty good film with the topics and subject matter it was dealing with, and is a good lead role for Val Kilmer, all things
yeah,
considered.
and it
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
showcased Graham Greene's
I'm
acting
gonna
ability.
back up to it.
Huh.
Yeah, when I knew Graham Greene made it big when he showed up in one of the Die Hard movies.
Yeah,
I
he's in
uh,
Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, one of the better
Yeah.
ones.
Yep, it's the best sequel, in my opinion, of the franchise.
Right.
It is coming
Well, I
up
guess.
on Die Hard season, isn't it?
Ooh,
Very much
yes.
Yeah.
so.
But that
But
gives me a thought, and I will talk to you guys about doing action movies for Christmas this year. But I don't know, last year. I'll
yeah.
have to talk to you. But we'll talk about that. Anything coming up this weekend, Cody, as far as
Not this
podcast goes?
weekend, but kind of the other side of this coin because it's, Native American Heritage Month, and we had this lovely conversation. For Ridley Scott, tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about how they whitewashed the Moses movie Exodus, Gods, and Kings.
Ooh.
oh my
I
god.
You
should
know what?
make
You know
that
what?
one. I'm not
I would
100%.
just
I'll let you know.
if I had to watch that, I would definitely watch Prince of Egypt as a palate cleanser.
It's a much better Moses movie.
Yeah.
I will say it.
It is. And even still, it's got its moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you guys
sorry.
so much for having me on.
Oh
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks for inviting me.
Thanks.
Remember,
Much.
check out
Sorry.
Hidalgo if you haven't seen it yet, and Dreamkeeper.
All right.
Will do.
We'll do. I definitely have seen Hidalgo before and enjoy that movie. So yeah. And
Yeah.
again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and to talk with us about this movie.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot better than I thought I would have.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
It
All
was nice
right.
talking to you. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
Chris, do you have anything else before I end this?
Not really. I think that was it.
Well, everybody, you have a safe and wonderful week and enjoy and be thankful for the people we have in our lives that make it all that better for us.
Absolutely.
Happy
For
Friendsgiving.
Yes.
yeah,
Friendsgiving.
for natives, we just eat.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, you know what? You know
Celebrating
what,
friends
Don?
and family.
We just eat too. I mean, that's really,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
You
Again,
have a good meal.
I like Friendsgiving a lot better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
So
I've been.
Friendsgiving is where it's at, where you sit down, you think about friends and family gone and the friends and family that you have, and cherish the relationships. That's what it needs to be about.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Also,
I
smoked
got
turkey is the best turkey.
Also, I'm sure it's cold in North Dakota, so stay warm, Don.
Yeah, I try to. And we
Oh,
call it Turkey Day.
Yeah.
there you go.
Turkey Day. Yep.
I'm gonna go heat me up some turkey and stuffing right now because we already had our meal Sunday since it's just me and the dog for the week.
Oh,
Uh,
yikes. All right. Yeah,
so we'll start
I
cooking.
gotta eat some dinner myself because
yeah, that's what we're doing.
it's 8 o'clock. So,
Yep.
all right.
All
Yep.
right. Well, thank you all for watching. Don, thank you again for coming on and talking with us, especially for this. I appreciate it. Everybody have a great night.
You
Yes.
Thank
too.
you.
Thank
Good
you. Good
night.
night.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.